Have you ever wondered how much it would cost to paint a room like this? Well, today you're in the right place. Whether you're a homeowner who's looking for a professional painter to come into your bedroom, or whether you are a contractor who is still trying to figure out how to do estimates, in this video, I'm gonna go over all the steps and all the things that you need to keep in mind in order to come up with a pretty accurate estimate for your next painting project. So, every job we do is calculated in how many hours it would take us to complete the work. So when you come into a room like this, we separate each section that is being painted or worked on. So for example, in this estimate, we're gonna go through how long it would take to paint the ceiling, how long it would take to paint the walls, and how long it would take to paint the trim. So we're gonna break it up into all those sections, and then at the end, we're gonna add up all the hours, and then we'll find out how much each project would be. Let's get started. Step number one is preparing the room. We need to take into account how much of the furniture needs to be moved out, or how much needs to be covered, and how much protecting of the flooring we need to do. So typically, if there's enough space in the room, like in this one, we would gather all the furniture in the middle, cover everything with plastic so no dust or paint debris gets on it, and then all the surrounding flooring area would be fully covered with plastic or with drop cloths. On average, to cover a room like this would take 2 guys about an hour to an hour and a half. So in total so far, we have 2 to 3 hours. If you're a little bit confused on how I got the total of 2 to 3 hours, remember, I said it takes 2 guys about an hour to an hour and a half to complete the job. So when you multiply it by 2, that's how you get the total of 2 to 3 hours. Step number 2 would be to prep all the ceilings and walls in the room. This could be as little as doing a full sand of all the surfaces so that the new paint adheres better and all the walls are smooth, and filling minor little holes from pictures like we have back here. Or it could be as much as repairing cracks, replacing drywall tape, or patching up larger holes that you find on the walls from damages or accidents that may have happened previously. On an average room like this one, it typically takes about 2 to 4 hours to do all the prep work on the ceilings and walls. Just by looking at it right now, this room seems to have a lot of nail pops and some cracks. So for this example, we're gonna say it's gonna take 4 hours to do the prep work in this room. All right, step number 3 would be to paint the ceiling. When you look at a ceiling, we need to determine how many coats of paint we're gonna apply. If we're using the same exact brand and the same exact color, we can get away with doing 1 coat. However, there is a lot of ceiling whites, and typically the customer doesn't know what white was used before. So if we're changing the color even slightly, we recommend that you do 2 coats on the ceiling. That way, when the light comes in, everything is gonna look nice and smooth, and everything's gonna look nice and even with the color. A lot of times you may think that, what the hell, I'm just painting white over white, so I'm just gonna do 1 coat. However, different brands and different lines of paints have different sheens and different white colors. So a lot of times, if you only do 1 coat, you're gonna see the roller marks, and you're also gonna see a lot of unevenness in the sheen of the color. So the ceiling is not gonna be a full solid white. And that is why we always recommend 2 coats if you're not sure what paint was previously used. All right, so when it comes down to how long it takes to paint a ceiling, it typically takes about 3 hours. So think about cutting with a brush all the perimeter and then around every single lamp, and then rolling the whole ceiling. That whole process takes about 3 hours per coat, like I said. And in this example, we're gonna say we're doing 2 coats, so that's a total of 6 hours. All right, step number 4 is painting all the walls. If you were gonna keep the same color, I would say just do 1 coat. However, most customers like to change their color, so we always recommend 2 coats for the best finish. Always. Most paint colors cover really well with 2 coats, unless you're doing a drastic color change. For example, if you were going from a bright red to a neutral color, then you would probably need at least 3 to 4 coats to cover that bright red, and vice versa. If you're going from like a white to a bright red, you're looking to do at least 3 to 4 coats. So in this room, for example, we're gonna say we're applying 2 coats of paint, and typically per coat, it takes about 3 hours to paint. Again, think about cutting in all the edges and then rolling all the walls. Per coat, it would take about 3 hours. So since we're doing 2 coats, it's a total of 6 hours to paint all the walls. All right, guys, we're almost done. So we're on step number 5, and step number 5 is painting the trim. When you paint the trim and you're only doing white over white, typically we recommend just 1 coat. This is because the trim is a smaller surface area, so 1 coat usually covers pretty well. This would only change if you're changing colors. If you're changing colors, then we would definitely recommend to do 2 coats. In this example, since we would just be doing white trim again, we're gonna say that we're only doing one coat. All right, so when we look at the trim in this room, we start out by counting all the doors. So we have a bathroom door, we have an entrance door, and we have 2 closet doors. We say that each door takes about an hour to paint, and that includes doing the prep on each door. That includes sanding all the surfaces, caulking if it needs to be caulked, and wiping it clean before we start painting. So far it's 4 hours. Also, the baseboards. Same process. In this room, it'll take about 1 hour to do all the baseboards. So that adds another hour, total of 5 so far. And we have 1 window, but that window, it's only the window frame, and that should take only about 30 minutes. So we got about 5.5 hours in the trim in this room alone. Finally, step number 6 is the cleanup and getting the room back to the way it used to be. So just like we had to cover everything up with plastic and drop cloths, we need to take up all the plastic off really carefully so that the dust doesn't get everywhere. Then we roll up all the drop cloths and put all the furniture back in place. And that again will take about 2 guys, 1 to 1.5 hours, which gives us a total of 2 to 3 hours at the end. All right, let's do a real quick recap. So to cover the flooring and the furniture and protect it, 2 hours. To do the prep work in this room, we said it was gonna be about 4 hours. To paint the ceilings, 6 hours. To paint the walls, another 6 hours. To paint the trim, we said it was about 5.5 hours. And to finally clean everything up, another 2 hours. All right, so all those numbers added up gave us a total of 25.5 hours, and we'll round that down to 25 to make it easier on the math. All right, so what we're gonna do here is a little bit of quick math on the backboard. That way it's easier for you to follow along. We have 25 total hours for the whole project. A professional painting company charges between $45 to $60 an hour. If you find somebody who does it lower than that, you're either very lucky, or I would recommend that you don't hire them because they're not really professional. So 25 times 45 an hour gives you about a total price of $1,125. And if you do $60 an hour, that gives you a price of $1,500. So you should know that when you're gonna hire a professional painter to paint a room like the one we went over in the example, this is gonna be your range of prices that you're gonna get from a professional painting company. This does not include materials. If we do a quick estimate on materials, it'll be roughly about 5 gallons of paint, if you do a mid-grade paint or in the higher quality part of it, you're gonna get about $60 per gallon, which gives you a total of $300. And if you do the other miscellaneous materials like plastic, sandpaper, spackle, tape, caulk, we can add another $100 for the rest of the materials, which gives you a total of $400. So the total of your paint project, it's gonna be roughly $1,525 to $1,900. All right, guys, now you know how to estimate the cost of painting a bedroom like a professional would. So the next time that you call a professional painter to come and do an estimate, you'll have a rough idea on how much it's gonna cost. And just in case you were wondering, my name is Sebastian. I am with FR Contractors and Investors, and we do residential and commercial painting in Baltimore City and Baltimore County. If you're ever looking for a professional painter, give us a call. We'll be very happy to help.